Welcome back to the Joe Rogan Experience. Tonight, relax and enjoy some of the most fascinating and mind-bending stories from the podcast, the kind that'll make you think, then help you drift off to sleep.
Usually women that want to push this and men who are bitches. It's like these men that don't like aggressive. They don't like aggressive men. They don't like manly men. And so they push it as well.
No, because they're aggressive and they're controlling and they want to run shit. And that's because that's the thing where, like, if you really look at their agenda, when they say the future is feminine, that's not inclusive. And they're all about, oh, make this more inclusive. It's like, no, let us in so we can take it over and then we'll push you down. Is the psychology of the kind of person that goes after that, someone that's after, like, power. I'm not saying the average woman is like that. My wife is a feminist and she's into, like, inclusive shit. But, like, people who are spearheading stuff.
Yes.
Like, those people are wired the same way, like, you know, I mean.
A dominator is.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And there's going to be no room for you. It's going to be like, think the way, like, a lot of that so-called progressive extreme left is think the way we think, say what we say, or we will fucking destroy you.
Pull up that tweet that I retweeted today, the David Pakman retweet. David Pakman is this liberal progressive guy. This woman posts on Twitter she would never vote for a man or a white man or a white person, white or male, someone who's white or male. He says that's racist and sexist. It is. So she blocks him on Twitter. Today, she called Boston College demanding that they not have him back as adjunct faculty. It's crazy. So this woman posts this, and he points out that it's racist and sexist. So she blocks him, and she tries to get him fired.
Okay, this is why that whole thing is fucked up. Okay, because he's acting like white people exist on an even plane, which a lot of people try to do. So it's like...
But he's not necessarily. He's just saying that what she's saying is racist and sexist.
Yes.
Because she's determining who she's going to vote for based entirely on the race.
Yes, but there's other elements involved. Like the level that white people, not saying all white people, but white people have fucked over people who are not white. Forget about poor white people who they fucked over. So you understand that, but they're both right, but then, like, the fact that she then takes it to the point that because he had the audacity to have a difference of an opinion, that's the thing now, and that now we're going to destroy you and you can't be on this thing. And then the other level of that is how the corporate entities are so afraid that one fucking nickel is going to roll out the door. Because all of this shit is you're just a paper tiger until you get the big behemoth to listen to you. And there's all of these fucking things from award shows to this bullshit that someone just needs to be like, listen, this guy already apologized. This is an old fucking thing. Or, look, you just had a difference of opinion. That you know, this isn't the first time you're going to say something and somebody's going to disagree with you. That doesn't mean that this guy can't come back. You know, and you obviously, because of some shit that's happened to you, have an extreme opinion about this guy because of the color of his skin. It's like there's so many fucked up elements to that, but for some reason you can't, like, if you address that on any level, then you're part of the problem. And
well,
then
it's not just part of the problem. She's trying to get him fired. She's trying to get him fired for pointing out that something is racist.
No,
and
I'm saying
sexist.
if you say what I just said,
yes.
Try to look at it 360.
Oh yeah, and you're
as much as I can, which is why I love South Park, because everything that they do it 360, right? And so I learned a lot from that show by the way they look at stuff like that, because I don't fucking know everything. But even just to try to be like, well, hey, you know, insulted him a little bit. I understand what you're saying and blah, blah, blah. You can't fucking do that anymore, because then somebody, you're part of the fucking problem. And no, it's really gotten crazy. It's gotten to the point, like, I've seen, I'm not going to name names, but I've seen, like, you know, a tweet from a fellow comic telling comics what jokes you shouldn't talk about this topic. It's like, who the fuck are you? It's like, there's already going to be enough people doing that. You're going to do, like, cannibalism now?
Have you really? You've really seen comics say that?
Yeah.
Real comics?
Yeah. I mean, everybody has their opinion on somebody's fucking act, but I mean, yeah. Yeah.
That's ridiculous. That's not a real comic.
Well, I wouldn't say that. They are a real comic. They just have an opinion I don't agree with.
They can fuck off.
Yeah, well, I mean. I'm trying to have less confrontations
but I understand.
In my life here.
That kind of shit drives me crazy, though. What drives me most crazy is this bullying. Like, she's trying to get him fired. She tried to get him fired for having an opinion on something that she publicly stated.
One of these, somebody running one of these things has to be like, and it can't just be private. It has to be a public tweet to say that it's just going too far. And this fucking thing where you have a difference of an opinion now, and they're just going to, take your fucking job away. I ran into this shit, when the Me Too stuff first started coming out, people would try to you had to tweet the right fucking thing, and if you said anything sort of, let's look at the evidence, God forbid you fucking said that, and it just became like this whole, you're part of the problem, and then they would try to take you down, or someone you were friends with or doing a show with or represented by, they would try to do like that pressure to try, and it was just like, and all you had to say is like, no, I'm not doing that. And then it just goes away because you don't have a fucking leg to stand on.
Well, also the people that are doing it, it's a small percentage it's a very
unbelievably
vocal minority.
Small.
Yeah.
Unbelievably small. And comics, it's like we're literally running for office. We're out there campaigning for this election that never happens, and you're going through red states, blue states, you're going through fucking everything. And the general consensus of people is like, dude, that was fucking crazy. Like that doesn't make sense. But no one wants to say it because they're going to get steamrolled. And
saw what happened to Matt Damon, right? Matt Damon said we have to make a differentiation between the Harvey Weinsteins in the world and then someone who, like Aziz Ansari, goes on a bad date. There's a big difference between those two. And they attacked him, and they tried to get him pulled off of that movie Ocean's 8.
Yeah, and they were acting like that, like killing somebody versus stealing a car versus jaywalking. Like literally the whole judicial system is based on what you did is your punishment. Your parents do that.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
How bad was what you did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all. That's what that sounded like.
Exactly.
And we live in a world now where I have to be measured in the way that I say that what he said, affected me, how I heard it, and then I was like, this is just a typical fucking bald white male.
Yep.
And they go in that route. It's like you literally sound like what the fuck you're against, and it's not going to last. And I feel like it's like the end of the winter, and people want to go outside and get some sun on their face, and taking people by the back of their fucking neck and fucking shoving their face in the shit. That you can't sustain that.
No,
you can't sustain
work.
It doesn't.
It doesn't work. You don't get people to change by yelling at them. Doesn't work.
Or bombing them, like what the fuck we're doing. Like that's not all you're doing is you're just building up resentment, and more people want to fucking take you down. So that's like
they don't understand psychology. So what they think is this is their time. This is their time to get back at men. This is their time to yell at men. This is the time to wear the Future's feminine T-shirts. This is the time to take their stand. And did you not see the Women's March? Saw a bunch of people walking.
Right. Listen, I'm not saying the points that they're making don't need to be made. I'm not saying that their complaints are not just. It's the execution of it.
Yes.
Where it's like you're going to go through intimidation and destroying people, like
exactly
people's careers, and people you have to publicly apologize. It's like
they're bullying people.
Yes. Some of the biggest bullies right now, I can't believe it because I'm a lefty, are on my side of the fucking fence. And, when someone's on your side of the fence and you're looking at them like you sound like a fucking crazy person, that's when you've entered, like, what was your special? Strange Times?
Yeah.
Weird. Yeah. Like, it's like.
It is strange. Yeah.
It is strange because it's.
They feel like they're justified because they feel like with a maniac like Trump in the office that they have to do what they have to do to change the world. But you don't change the world by yelling at people. It doesn't work that way. And there's real points to be made. There's real points about. I couldn't imagine being a woman working in an office with a bunch of guys trying to fuck you all the time. It's got to be a goddamn nightmare. I can't imagine having a bunch of bosses that literally tell you suck my dick, I'll give you a raise. Like, that happens. It's fucking. It's got to be hell. I get it. I mean, I get it.
But you
from
have to
top
be.
to
You got to
bottom.
be like an 8 though, 8 on up, to deal with that every day. I mean, let's be fucking honest. You know what I mean? There's
some sixes out there.
There's really good. If you got a
hit the
personality.
gym a lot, got a nice ass.
I'm just saying, it's just like some of that shit is like fucking, it's. I always viewed it like you ever watch like the behind the scenes of like a prison, and the first thing every guy thinks is how the fuck would I not get raped in there, right?
Exactly.
Women have to think that just fucking walking down the street. So that's how I wrap my head around to be like, wow, okay, like what they're saying is like, because I don't like a lot of the arguments, I'm not like that doesn't make sense. It's what doesn't make sense to me is the children of the corn fucking torches burning and just go like the way that just I mean a lot of people like they do that with like our foreign policy. Like this whole fucking thing has bankrupted this country. Every August now they just shut down the government, which has just become normal, and all they do to make it like okay is they just raise the level of debt that we legally can take on or whatever. And it's like, all right, let's do this for another year. And if you question any of that, that means you don't support the troops. And you're a fucking piece of shit and you need to get the fuck out of here. And it's like, so much stuff doesn't make sense to me. Like, I just saw Michelle Obama. They had this fucking tweet of her wearing these glitter thigh-high boots and said, sets Twitter on fire with her $4,000 fucking boots. And it's just like, you know, do you don't question where she got that money? The president makes $500,000 a year. She blew $4,000 on thigh-high boots. And don't even talk to me about the fucking book deal and all of that shit. That fucking guy, his first like two, you know, public speaking engagement things were like with major banks. And you go out on the road,
thousands of dollars.
And all these guys are like fucking, all these fellow Americans are upside down in the house from all those fucking banker cunts who did not get punished in 2008. They all, you want to talk about like people who should have had their fucking lives burned down, those people. And these guys, they have their faces in the same fucking pig trough as the guys with the red ties. And for whatever reason, like, I don't know why, like, they get a pass.
Exactly. And
it doesn't make any sense.
How about more serious shit, like drone strikes? More innocent civilians were killed with drone strikes during Obama's administration.
I know, and that's why they're telling me you're fighting terrorism while you're creating more of it. Because all I would want to do is just get revenge.
Exactly.
And, you know, I have very simplistic ways of how to get the fuck out of there.
How do you do it?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying the air would be cleaner because I don't know what, like, when you throw a Tesla battery into the fucking ocean, what that does to it. I'm sure it's fucking horrible. But I know that they're a one-stop shop over there in the Middle East. They got oil and that's it, you know? I always compare them. Remember that kiosk in, like, the South Shore Plaza in Boston? There was it was a place called Wicks and Sticks. All they did was sell candles. Which just seemed like a really vulnerable business. Yeah. Or pewter pot. First they just sold muffins. Yeah. And then they started doing full breakfasts. Well, they're like a pewter pot. They're just selling muffins. So if we stop buying muffins, we got enough oil here. If we switch to solar power and all that shit, I know the windmills are ugly, and I know that's probably just as much fucking bad on the environment. But what it does is it gets you out of there. And it bankrupts them, and then they don't have the money to funnel through the mosque to fund the terrorists.
Well, the United States is exporting oil now, which is crazy. I mean, we have a lot of oil,
right?
And especially through, you know, fracking.
But I'm just saying. But if you ever suggested that, which I think I just did, I think then for some reason I don't love my country and like I'm trying to solve it. I'm a frugal guy, you know. I don't fucking, you know, I don't spend beyond my means. And, you know, I don't like debt and that type of shit. I don't know how the fuck these guys. I think that's why the president ages so much.
Well, they don't get any sleep. The pressure. You imagine
the dead bodies,
everything,
all of that.
Oh, just knowing how everything really works.
Oh yeah.
Trump doesn't seem to mind. He just takes an extra Adderall, keeps on trucking. He doesn't seem like he's all the scandals. That guy seems completely normal.
Because I think he's a certain level sick mentally that it doesn't get in. I mean, because he hasn't aged at all. Now, granted, he's got all that white stuff around his eyes, and you know, I don't know what he's doing with the hair, but the hair is usually the telltale sign. But I think
it goes gray. Yeah, he's one of the only presidents that you know. It's like half of that shit's probably from a doll. Like who knows where that?
Well, he's got enough money to do like a transplant at this point, right?
You can't do a transplant on that thing. He doesn't have any donor area.
What do you mean? He's got it all in the back, doesn't he?
No, he doesn't. You ever see what happens when it flies up in the back when the wind hits it? The back's all bald.
Oh, because he probably did the original plugs and they didn't take.
Who knows what he's got going on back there? He's got chaos going on back there. You ever seen it?
Yeah, I mean, he's the
The
president.
wind hits it and his hair flops up. But you ever seen the video of him? It looks he's a guy wearing a demon, like
Yeah,
a,
it's
like a
wisp-
demon
it's
wearing a
very
human
wispy.
mask.
It's very wispy.
Not just wispy, like it's missing, like
Dude,
Chernobyl
you know what'd be nuts?
baby.
Do you know what'd be nuts? If he gets a second term and he shaves his head,
That would be nuts.
and he would just look like the most evil fucking dude ever. Like, that would be like...
If he got his second term, shaves his head, starts doing intermittent fasting, lifting weights, gets on steroids, drops down to about $190, jacked.
Yeah, I mean, that would be... I think, yeah, it's definitely... I don't know. That's why I'm trying to just, in my own little fucking world, I'm trying to chill out more, and I'm trying not to fucking... There's enough yelling. I don't think that they need it from me now.
I think more mocking and laughing than yelling, for sure. But when you see enough of those, the future is feminine T-shirts, and you see enough hypocrisy, and you see enough people trying to take people out for commenting on what's sexist and racist and trying to get people fired, like, it's a time of outrage across the board. And you have to respond a little bit. You have to let people know, hey, this is fucking ridiculous. Like, there's a certain obligation, especially comedians have as a social commentator. You see some stupid shit if you're not commenting on it. Like,
If you choose to go that route,
Yeah.
some people just like,
Yeah,
all right, I'm just going to let you forget your whole work week, and I'm just going to talk about a bunch of shit,
Yeah.
small stuff.
We definitely go down a bunch of different rabbit holes. Like we did, we've had a lot of like some of the protein researchers come on and talk about some of that stuff. Like Dr. Stu Phillips or Professor Stu Phillips, Professor Don Lehman, Professor Jose Antonio.
What do you mean by protein stuff? Like
Like
different qualities of protein?
Yeah, they're doing like the protein research. They're kind of the guys who are on doing some of the more recent research and looking at like, well, what are our protein needs across like a variety of ages, as well as when you introduce athletics, and then like what is the quality versus, or like I guess maybe the best way to look at it is like the bioavailability of different protein sources and things like that. And I think there's it seems like something that we'd have figured out already, but there's I guess some nuance with that even, and now they're saying that there's probably reason to believe that our recommendations should be higher than what they have been historically, especially for athletes and elderly folks. And
You mean the RDA?
Yeah.
recommended daily?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The RDA, as it currently stands, is basically just to prevent disease, right?
yeah, something like that. And I think they maybe are learning more too about just kind of what role protein plays in bone health too, as opposed to just because people think of protein as just this building block for muscle, but there's a lot that goes into it with bone health as well. So those guys were really interesting to hear about. And we've done a lot of stuff with ranchers and some of the savory Salatin folks come on the show and talk about kind of that practice versus kind of your standard agricultural production methods and things like that.
Savory salad. You mean Joel Salatin? What is savory? What do you mean?
Oh, like Alan Savory. So
Okay.
we've had Alan Savory, Joel Salatin, Will Harris from White Oak Pastures on, Bobby Gill, he's part of the Savory Institute, come on and just kind of share with us like kind of where that stuff is at. Because I think there's a lot of guesswork and unanswerable questions at this point with some of that stuff, because we're projecting like way down the road with some of this stuff.
Are you talking about the difference between grain-fed versus grass-fed meat?
Yeah, and most specifically with those guys too, just like kind of what it's doing to the soil health and the soil quality. So one thing that I've learned that was interesting was that, we kind of start to like throw a lot of these different like quote unquote regenerative type practices into one like bucket or one category, when in reality there's a lot of different variants within them. So someone can say like, oh, regenerative agriculture is going to save the planet, and then someone will go dig up a bunch of studies that show like, well, no, it actually doesn't do anything. And then like,
I'm confused in that, because Chris Kresser's all in on this regenerative agricultural thing. But is there real evidence that you can have a zero carbon gain?
yeah, I mean, it's
Because that's the net positive. The
Yeah.
idea is that if you use regenerative agriculture, meaning the animals graze, you're not talking monocrop environments, that these cows graze on open fields of grass, and then they shit all over the place, and then that shit becomes manure, and that this actually helps the plant life grow, and all this stuff sort of it all becomes a part of a cycle.
Yeah.
And that this regenerative practice is actually, instead of raising the carbon footprint, it actually makes a carbon neutral footprint.
Yeah. And I think where sometimes it gets confusing is if you go and you just look at studies on regenerative agriculture, you get a lot of mixed information. So what I was told, and I'm still kind of going down this rabbit hole, and the way I like to look at all these type of things is I try to like look at one side of the story and then look to the other side and see where the counters are to that and just kind of go back and forth until you hit a dead end. And then, if you hit a dead end, like that's where you're at for now until something else gets introduced. And where I got to now is, I think it was maybe Will Harris told us this, that when you're looking for these studies on kind of what practice is going to be good in terms of like soil regeneration, you have to look up adaptive multi-paddock grazing. Because if you look up like holistic or regenerative agriculture, you're just going to get a whole mess of like different ranges or different types of it. And some are effective, some aren't. So it's really hard to kind of piece out, who's got the accurate stuff and not. And I mean, I think ultimately some of this stuff is we just don't know yet.
What was the one that's most, what did you just say?
Adaptive multi-paddock grazing.
And what does that mean?
It just means like it's a rotational grazing from what I understand, but you're kind of moving the herd along to these different paddocks, and then they're like, they're doing their thing in what would you consider like a natural way, like it would have been before we came in and shot all the buffalo and all that stuff. And then they're rotating it. So the way I've understood it, like the more of those paddocks you can get, the better, because then you're letting the soil and the and everything in there like really heal and develop that deep root system, as well as some of that microbiome, like all the insects and things that would be in there,
right,
and all that stuff.
So you would need massive amounts of land and massive amounts of areas for them to graze.
I think you would need. I think the more the better is probably the way to look at it, but. Hopefully the soil biologists aren't cringing.
They must be cringing. Yeah. I'm sure they are, and we apologize in advance. But like,
the interesting thing though is like, I think there's a lot of work to be done in looking into this and finding out the best way to maybe utilize it. But the part that I thought was really interesting is with the Will Harris White Oak Pastures thing. I think this study is maybe overutilized by like the pro regenerative or multi-paddock group to a degree, because it's what they have.
And it's what they're looking for. They're looking for a specific answer,
Mm-hmm.
meaning this is good. Mm-hmm. This is the way. We found a way where you can eat meat and not feel bad.
Yeah. And the thing that's compelling about that study to me is the way it kind of happened was essentially what happened was Will Harris and White Oak Pastures, they were raising animals for Epic Bar. Like that was one of their buyers.
Oh, okay.
And Epic Bar got acquired by I think it was General Mills. And so General Mills looked at what Epic Bar was claiming when they were the independent, and they were saying like our stuff is regenerative. Ours, you buy our product and you're giving back versus taking, kind of a mindset. And I think General Mills was skeptical about that, so they spent, I think it was like $80,000 to go in and have a study done on Will Harris's White Oaks pasture to really see if they could back that claim up. And they went in and they did the study, and it actually showed like a net carbon sequestration versus, like, they weren't even neutral. They actually pulled in more than they put out.
So this is from Epic's particular type of farming that they utilize.
At least at White Oaks pasture.
Okay.
So, I mean, again, that's one specific situation or one specific environment or area. So I think where people run into maybe a potential problem is, can we extrapolate that forward to other areas? Are we going to get that same result, or is it going to be different?
Right. Mm-hmm. That's what's important it really is important to look at that honestly, because even though you do have this one area, is that because of the environment where this farm is taking place? Is it because of the particular soil quality? Like, what are the factors that allow them to have? So it actually takes carbon out of the atmosphere, like a certain percentage. So instead of adding carbon, it actually removes some.
Yeah, because I guess the way it was described to me is that the inputs of that type of system are so low that like you're not like, because if you look at just a normal like agricultural setup, you have all these inputs of like manure and all these other things that are going to add to that net effect, or that net negative effect of animal agriculture. So when you reduce the inputs down to next to nothing, because your inputs are all kind of just manpower, where you're moving these things around and letting the natural course of things happen over time, that's where you can maybe minimize some of these, like, I guess what you maybe call like a tertiary damage of animal agriculture. But I think I think we probably have a lot to learn and stuff with that stuff too. But it's one of those things when I think about it, it's like hopefully we're spending a lot of time looking at that stuff, because if they're right about the number of harvests we have left, I think what are they estimating? We have like 60 harvests left. I mean, clearly, regardless of whether you're vegan, carnivore, or somewhere in between, we need quality soil, right?
Right.
I mean,
What about hydroponic? Because I know that there are some large-scale hydroponic operations that are growing vegetables and things along those lines, and some people think that there's real promise in that, because you're not using soil at all. You're not you're not devastating the already depleted ground soil, and you also don't need to do all the harmful things that are involved in monocrop agriculture, right? Like the devastation on the wildlife, the displacement of wildlife, pesticides, combines that are indiscriminately chewing up small rodents and bugs and rabbits and anything else that gets caught in their blades.
Yeah. That'd be interesting. I don't know a whole lot about it other than what it is. So, I mean, I'm all for solutions.
Yeah, somebody sent me a link to something that some indication that there might be some promise in hydroponic agriculture, but. But the thing about this whole idea, what was the name of the farm where that this was done, where there's
the White Oak Pastures?
White Oak Pastures. Is that sustainable, like nationally? Forget about globally, but even nationally, in terms of like the needs that people have for beef? I mean, we use so much beef in this country.
Yeah, I don't know for sure like what the scalability of that would
Right.
be. My guess is like at this point it would be, because it's pretty small, like even from a percentage standpoint of what is being, or how much of that type of process is being used. It's like a single percentage or something like that. So.
Well, all grass-fed meat, right? All grass-fed meat is like less than 3%.
Yeah, so it seems like we'd have a long ways to go. But I mean, I guess the counter to that would also be we're essentially going back to what we would have been doing historically. And so it's not necessarily like reinventing the wheel as much as it is just saying, okay, what we did here obviously is not sustainable or potentially not sustainable. So let's look at, well, what did we do to get back to where we were before? I guess maybe is the way to look at that. But
no, I was blessed to have dialogue with B.B. King on a number of occasions. He was really the king in a lot of ways. King not because he was the greatest blues artist, but because he was a great blues artist who, through his personality and through his generosity, was able to create such a presence that he becomes the king in that way.
I had a chance to see him live.
You saw him live,
yes.
too? He's something.
Spectacular.
Was that at the very end when he was sitting most of the time?
No, he was still standing.
He was still standing?
It was
in
the late 90s.
Oh, yeah. No, you absolutely.
The power out of his voice.
Man. But he used to say that the blues was a kind of high school vis-a-vis the jazz, who are those who went to college. And by college, he meant just studying with Bird, with Armstrong, with Duke, with Rutherford and Mary Lou Williams and the others. And I always tell him, I said, I don't know about that, because, genius and excellence comes in a number of different forms. Most jazz musicians don't have the genius of a Robert Johnson. And yet, Charlie Christian's guitar is more complicated in a variety of different ways than Robert Johnson, too, so that you had to be able to be flexible enough to see the differences, the development, building on the genius of those who came before. So you can end up being a very good guitar player who plays some unbelievable chords that Jimi Hendrix created.
Yes.
But you build it on Jimmy.
Right.
And it becomes almost not taken for granted, but something you can use as a launching pad.
Like Stevie Ray Vaughan did.
Yes.
He wrote Jimmy's
example.
Vibrations.
That's a great example.
And added his own feel to it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
here again, you see, you have the that common humanity that cuts across color. And there's a lot of controversy these days about cultural appropriation. Can white brothers and sisters really be part of a black genre and so forth and so on? I had a dialogue at my class at Harvard this spring, where I teach a course on black intellectual tradition, and I include some white intellectuals as part of it. It was a strange career of Jim Crow, for example, by the great C. Van Woodward. History of Jim Crow, which was the Bible. Martin Luther King said it was the Bible, the civil rights movement. Woodward was a white Southern brother. And I asked them, they said, we don't understand completely, Brother West. I said, well, let me ask you this. Is Eminem a part of the hip-hop tradition at the highest level? Yes, he is. Yes, he is. That's who we talking about. You see, you had to be a fool to deny the genius of Eminem.
Yeah.
Of Eminem, you see.
But relatively
and there's no Eminem
few.
without Dr. Dre and so
Right,
forth.
of
So he
course.
immerses and soaks himself in
Yes.
it, but he puts his own distinctive stamp on it.
Yeah.
Hall and Oates would be another. Righteous Brothers another. Average White Band from Scotland.
Wow.
Well, you know the Average White Band.
Sure.
And the funk that they would generate.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Now, of course, no Average White Band without James Brown. James Brown took it to places nobody took it.
Right.
But
Right.
you let those Scottish brothers play person to person on you.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Pick up the pieces. Why? Why'd you have to go? Why'd you have to go and make me love you? And it's slow. Why'd you? I mean, it's just soulful, man. You say Scotland, Robert Burns, Walter Scott, David Hume, colonized by the British Empire, responding in their own creative ways, and by the 20th century, they soaked in rhythm and blues too.
Wow.
Korea's like that today.
Really?
Oh man, you know Korean pop, K-pop, and K-rhythm and blues.
Well, I know they've got a lot of break dancers over there.
Oh, but it's not just BTS now. BTS is something else. They pack Madison Square Garden. But I'm talking about like urban Sakapa, man. Oh, you put on Coffee, man. Oh, Lord, have mercy. I played that to Danny Glover the other day on the Bernie Sanders campaign. We traveling way off in the country in South Carolina for Brother Bernie. I say, Danny, he's from San Francisco. I said, man, listen to these young Korean brothers, man. They're going to remind you of the Natural 4 of Richmond. And I put it on. Oh, man, they can't be Korean. What you talking about? Those Koreans got a soulful sound, man, that'll blow your mind. I was just reading a book called The Birth of Korean Cool by Sister Wong.
Oh, wow.
And it shows, again, how, that human spirit is always grounded in something local and particular like black music.
Right.
But it travels. It's the roots and the routes.
Yeah.
So the roots are black, but the ROUTES is global.
The reason that I'm fighting through culture war issues, which are not very interesting to me, is that we are destroying the thing that has the ability to make sense of the world, right? It's really the desire.
Reason and logic?
Yeah, the ability to say no. You come with an experiment that failed, and you say, I think it succeeded. And I say, no, it didn't. It failed. And you say, well, I actually am Cambodian, and I think you're discriminating against me because I'm Cambodian. It's like, look, your experiment failed. It has nothing to do with you being Cambodian.
I see what you're saying.
And you keep that stuff out of my lab. I mean, if you
Culture war stuff.
yeah,
Yes.
really what I'm animated by is get your fucking social engineering out of my laboratory. You've got 10 minutes and I'm calling security. That's my issue. It's not telling people how to behave or that I have all the answers or that we need to be objective in our lives and that we just want to have sensible discussions. It's you're coming after core reality and our ability to make sense of the world. And so I'm happy to entertain all sorts of things. You take step one foot in my lab and I'm calling security. And if I can't do that, if I can't maintain a scientific journal or a university in which the bullshit departments do not invade the departments that are actually doing the super important work, we're lost.
And there is a distinction. And this distinction needs to be made. There is a distinction between hard science and gender studies.
If you could pull up, Jamie, let's do the anomalous magnetic moment of the electron. Oh, you can do that?
Yeah.
You went all Sean Connery on me.
Raise the eyebrow?
Yeah, one eyebrow.
Isn't that like a genetic thing? Like you can curl your tongue? Like, yeah, I could do that.
Yeah.
Some people can't do that apparently.
Can you turn it over?
What do you mean? Turn upside
Twist it.
down? Oh, no, I can't do that.
All right. You got one thing, I got another.
Okay.
This is very mature, Joe.
But what is going on here?
I'm looking for a number with like 10 or 11 significant digits. We are able to do calculations in quantum electrodynamics, let's say, or quantum field theory, in which we can figure out the precision of something. We can predict it to like 10 or 11 decimal places of accuracy. And when I look at the achievement that was necessary to have theory agree with experiment to that level, and then I listen to some of the discussions about, well, just take these hoaxes about, somebody submitted parts of Mein Kampf to, as with Jews rewritten as men
Peter
to a feminine,
Boghossian,
right?
yeah.
Those two subjects are taking place in the same institution. Mm-hmm. One is incredibly rigorous and demanding and completely unforgiving, and the other thing is just like
Frivolous and nonsensical.
well, maybe there's a core of it that makes sense, but it's not going to get anywhere close to the achievements of the hard sciences.
But the core of it, whether or not it makes sense, the real problem is the motivation for doing it in the first place.
Well, the real motivation may be activism, but activism and scholarship aren't. I mean, there's so many things that I want to be true that just aren't. I want beautiful. I mean, like, nature. You spend time in nature. You want to think, like nature's a community, and the forest is a bunch of different organisms all working together. No, it's red of tooth and claw. Everything that you think about the universe that is purely beautiful and aspirational is contradicted by some system in nature. And that's why evolutionary theory was the first thing on the chopping block. It's just like, well, this contradicts everything we want to claim about organisms. Well, tough luck.
I feel like there's a way to define this clearly that makes people understand it better.
Okay.
And I don't know if I'm the guy to do it, but I feel like this is an incredibly complex issue, right? Where you're dealing with emotions and feelings and people who feel like there's injustice in the world and inequality, and they focus on those things to the point where they're almost participating in social engineering by ignoring reality and focusing on what they want to be true in sort of this way of reimagining the world. And they're also demanding compliance. This is a big part of this whole thing that's going on here. Then on the other hand, you've got this stuff. You've got these hard sciences that demand just rigorous intellectual debate. They demand careful study of the facts. They demand a deep understanding of complex mathematics in order to achieve these results and to be able to verify them.
And they're unforgiving.
Yeah. They're two totally different things. And what you're saying is when one of them, that is this sort of frivolous, airy, kind of utopian version of what they like the future to be, and that interferes,
right?
Where they want a certain amount of diverse people on the staff. And
I am not even saying that it's frivolous. I'm not even saying it's not scholarship. I'm saying that whatever it is, I don't care. Maybe it's some beautiful social thing.
Well, but then they'll hit you with, you don't care because you're a white male and you have white male privilege.
And I don't. And what I realize is that as important as inclusion is, exclusion is equally important. And the instant you say that, I don't know you the time of day.
What does that mean by exclusion is equally important?
We keep talking about diversity and inclusion, inclusion. And there's an implicit threat in that, which is what makes it really juicy and interesting, which is like, well, let's look at us. We got 3 white guys in here. There's Jamie, you, and me.
Speak to yourself. I'm 1.6% African. I'd like you to recognize that.
I knew he was going to play that card. But you, sir, can pass as white, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in order to have the objection, like there's some little bit of guilt, which is like, well, why aren't there any people from Cambodia in here? Is it that we're really anti-Cambodian? If you carry that guilt, you're always worried that you have to be able to prove that you're inclusive. Doesn't matter.
Right.
Right. Okay. It is also important to exclude certain voices from the conversation. So the voice that plays the card, which says, well, you're only saying that because X. I don't have to listen to that voice. And I think this is really important. That is not a voice that needs to be answered. It's not a voice that needs to be taken seriously or paid attention to unless there's some serious allegation that there has been some kind of discrimination or inclusion. The burden of proof is on you for saying why that's interesting in a particular conversation.
The burden is on you to explain why that's interesting.
Right.
Well, for them, they're trying to engineer a more fair and balanced society. If I was going to take their perspective, they would say that the reason why there aren't more women in science or trans people in science or, fill in the
But I'm
blank.
also trying to engineer a world where there are more women in science.
How are you doing that?
By trying to figure out what is it that's selecting against women. For example, that we need to get women more money, as I said on this program, earlier in their lives so they can hire help to help raise their children so they can spend more time on their careers and balance.
Yeah, but a lot of women don't find that attractive. They don't want to do that.
Maybe, but I'm
And
trying to
they
think. But my point is that there are lots of reasons that men and women are different, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, I saw a beautiful video of a guy who jumps down an enormous flight of stairs on a skateboard, and he just nails the landing, and it's a thing of art. And then it shows you 150 attempts where this guy just abused his body and failed and failed, maybe broke a tooth, blood everywhere. And you're thinking, oh, you showed me the success and you didn't show me that this guy was willing to put his brain, his life on the line in order to nail that trick. And he's actually one of the world's falling champions, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, when you start saying, well, why are you putting this video of this person who's doing this thing, on the internet because that person belongs to a privileged class? I'm saying, well, I don't know, that guy abused himself and put himself at risk and, devoted his life in a singular way that no sensible I would be appalled if my son did that. I'd be furious with him. There are things that are happening that result in imbalances that aren't about some kind of unfairness. And I think it's very important to say that unfairness is real and structural problems are real and non-structural problems and things that really aren't unfair are also real.
I think we both agree that it's important for people to have the opportunity to pursue what they enjoy pursuing. I think there's also an issue where we want people to be more represented. We want more of that kind of person that's interested in something when they might not necessarily naturally gravitate towards it. And it might not be that there's some impediments and that there's some boundaries
Right.
and some sort of boys club that keeps them out. And it might be more that they're just not that interested in that.
Well, there are all
which
sorts
has
of different,
biologically been
Right.
that's been proven in studies.
but I'm trying to make it a different point, right?
Okay.
To me, what I'm trying to say is I made a mistake years ago, I think, of engaging and answering this point, which is, let's take piano competitions. Why are piano competitions historically disproportionately, let's say entered and won by Russians or chess or who knows what? Mm-hmm. Well, Russians are beasts in the way that they destroy children on their way to the concert stage. They will do things that most American families will not do to produce a concert pianist. Okay, that's not an unfairness for the rest of us. I mean, I play the piano. I can't get on stage with these guys because they're just amazing. It's not an unfairness that
Right.
I'm not represented on that stage. If I told you that my intention is to become the world's greatest jiu-jitsu expert at age 53, being overweight and not having any history in combat sports, and I know that it's not going to happen.
With the right amount of drugs
Come on, Joe.
and engineering, we can do miraculous things.
That's true. We can make him better than he was.
Yeah, we need daily stem cells. We're gonna have to do some real. We're gonna take a chance on cancer and all sorts of other diseases. But,
Right.
we can achieve some things.
Okay, but the previous conversation that we were trying to
No,
have.
you need to develop. You need to develop. It needs to be a part of your. Well, here's the thing that I always say about striking sports.
Right.
Striking sports are probably one of the more interesting ones in that when you start out at an early age, your body develops learning how to strike,
Right.
and it's a gigantic advantage over someone who learns once they're past puberty. When you get someone who's learning how to strike and they're in their 20s, it takes a real outlier to become super successful. It's very, very rare.
Well, I remember being in a fist fight and throwing a punch and not connecting and hurting my arm.
Yeah,
It's
it happens all the time.
Oh, I didn't understand. It's
Yeah.
not free. You know, it's like a very expensive. Now all you've got is your left arm, and you got a really pissed off person across from you.
Yeah. Have you ever met Jamie Kilstein?
So Jamie and I have a checkered history. I don't know if maybe you and I have spoken about this. I've never met Jamie, but when Jamie was social justice warrior #1,
He went hard.
he went hard
Hard in the
on
paint.
me. Yeah. Like he just was dunking on me endlessly in ways that were totally unfair. I mean, he was just, he was working very hard to become an enemy, and then he had his epiphany. Then the social justice mob came for him over something.
Almost nothing.
Right.
Over him trying to get laid. I mean, like they were saying he was a creep or something like that. Just hitting on girls.
Yeah,
Like-
well, I missed the details there, but then he came. Then he's since sent me very friendly and apologetic emails about just I'm sorry what I did, and he wants to do a podcast. I haven't taken him up on it, but that maybe that could be an interesting conversation.
He's sincerely apologetic.
Yeah.
He's a good guy. I mean, he and I had our own issue at one point in time over a podcast that we did versus it was. You remember when the Daniel Tosh rape controversy? Like, do you remember this?
I know who Tosh is,
Not
but I
a
missed
rape
that.
joke. I should say rape joke. Some woman in a crowd. He was on stage. And he wasn't supposed to be there. It was at the Laugh Factory. And Dom Irrera put him on stage. And he goes, look, I don't have any material. What do you guys want to talk about? And some guy yells out, rape. And
That's always helpful.
and so, it's like some drunk in a crowd, right?
Uh-huh.
He goes, Jesus Christ. And so Daniel Tosh's take on it, he's okay, what's funny about that? Humiliation, violence. He's like berating this guy in trying to do stand-up while he's doing this. And some woman yells out, actually, there's nothing funny about rape. And he goes, wouldn't it be funny if someone just raped her?
Right.
And everybody starts laughing.
Yeah, I do remember
And
this,
so
yeah.
this woman wrote a giant blog about it, and
Yeah.
she wanted him to apologize about it. And Jamie went after Daniel Tosh.
As a fellow comic.
Yes, as a fellow
Yeah.
comic, saying that it's, and I was like, well, she's a heckler. The woman heckled, like, while he was trying to do stand-up. And he's like, I'm not going to support rape culture. And he's like, how the fuck is that rape culture? Like, he's clearly making a joke about something she said that was very, very patronizing. Like, obviously, he doesn't think there's something funny about rape. He's just trying to work through this ad-lib set that he's doing with some guy who yelled out something that this whole crowd has to respond to. He can't just ignore the fact that it happened and go, how about fire trucks, folks? Why are they always red?
Yeah.
He can't do that.
Yeah.
He's got to deal with what this guy said. And so that's what he tosses out there, and everybody laughed, by the way.
But also,
This is
isn't
problem.
part of his persona just
A villain.
He takes it to the edge, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's edgy comedian. He's funny.
Right.
And Jamie and I had this little tit for tat about it, but he's very honest about his mistakes. Like when you talk to him, and he's got great insight because he was that guy. He was that guy that was going back and forth with people online all day and checking his mentions. Like, couldn't walk down the street more than 5 steps before he'd pull out his phone and check his mentions to see how people were responding to his latest dunking or takedown or
Right.
It's a toxic thing that people are doing. It's this looking for people that are bad and looking for things that are wrong, looking for wrong speak. It's very toxic. It's toxic for the people that are doing it. It's toxic for the people that are receiving it. It's not a way that human beings would ever communicate in one-on-one. I mean, I try to communicate with people the same way online as I would if they were right in front of me. I don't always succeed, but I try. That's my goal. My goal is to try to talk to someone as if they were right in front of me. That's clearly not how everybody's handling it.
I mean, I think road rage is the best analogy for what's happening on social media.
Yeah, I've adopted that. I've adopted that way of looking at it too. But the only difference is that road rage, there's like a physiological reason for road rage.
Because you're in a dangerous situation that you're subliminally taking stock.
You're going fast.
Yeah, right.
You're in a metal machine with a bunch of assholes that are probably looking at their phone, and everybody's going fast, and you could die at any moment if someone goes wrong. If you're on a highway like the 405 and you have 5 lanes going 70 miles an hour, it is a fucking miracle that no one dies. Yeah. And every day we do it. Every day everything's fine.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to this idea of what the actual normative response would be when somebody puts their foot in their mouth or something from their past gets disclosed. I mean, the stupid and indefensible thing they did as a teenager, right?
Yeah.
Like this. You got these guys who are now having their careers destroyed for having dressed up, in blackface or in a hood for Halloween or whatever it was. I mean, I think that one politician said he's not even in the photo, but the photo was on his yearbook page or like whatever you put on your yearbook page in high school, right? You find out this thing that no adult is going to defend, right? But what is the path back? What is the reboot that should be acceptable? Because we don't even know. It seems we don't even know what could conceivably work to rehabilitate somebody's career. And yet on this other side, we've got people who, again, are being let out of prison for murders they admit they committed, right? Or rapes they admit they committed, and they're rehabilitated. And these are stories we're supposed to feel good about, right? So we have to figure out how to square this on the left. And, I don't know. The way I've been thinking about it is that it has to be intelligible how you are different from the person who committed that thing, right? So, like if you did something that was, let's say, legit racist when you were 20, and like Mark Wahlberg is an example of this. I mean, he was running around just beating people senseless, right? And for avowed racist motives, I believe, when he was a teenager.
Well, the guy lost his eye.
Right. Yeah. So, and I think that was a Vietnamese guy he attacked, but I mean, he was just doing truly indefensible things. Now, I don't know what sort of PR moment he has had since, or how he's apologized for it, but I mean, that was a very different time. I think if all that stuff was being discovered about him now, there may be no way back to
the problem is, with this day and age, it could be reignited. Right. Like, even though he's apologized for it, and even though that it's been addressed, it absolutely could get reignited.
Yeah, I mean, just me talking about it on your podcast is fucking him over, right?
It could, yeah. I mean, and also people have to recognize that there's some things, but you can't retroactively instill today's ideas of what constitutes racism on 1985. So if you were in high school in 1985 and you dressed up as Mr. T, right, that, I don't know if that was racist back then. I never did it, but I don't know if that's racist. Like, if you had a bunch of gold chains and you made your hair black, or you made your face black and gave yourself a mohawk, and you said, I'm Mr. T for Halloween, right, and the pictures emerged today, what you did when you went door to door when you were 15 or 12 or whatever you were, knocking on people's doors, and everybody was laughing, oh, you're Mr. T. Nobody thought it was racist. Yeah. But today,
but let's take the hard case. Let's say you were racist, right? I mean, so I had this guy, Christian Picciolini, on my podcast once, who's a ex-neo-Nazi. He's just legit racist, right? He's got all the tattoos to prove it. And now there are major problems with Christian Picciolini, as I think you know, that I discovered after that podcast. But so this is not an endorsement of him. Sorry, Christian. But there's a path back. I mean, so like, he's celebrated on the left. Yes. Like, he's a former neo-Nazi, and he's, I discovered him on Sarah Silverman's show on wherever that is, Hulu. He's a darling of the left, right? And darling of MSNBC for this redemption story. So, but what is you take someone like any of these politicians who have something in their backstory that is ugly. My feeling is all there has to be is a transparent and intelligible account of how you are now different, of how you can actually honestly look back on this thing and say, yeah, I am as embarrassed by that as you think I should be, right?
Yeah.
That's not like, that is nothing that does not represent how I view the world at all now. But there's the spirit of the time on social media, again, especially on the left, and to our total dysfunction politically, is to never accept any of that. I mean, there is no apology good enough,
Right?
And or there's the most cynical possible interpretation of your apology. It's like you're just trying to. The only reason why you're apologizing is because you want to save your job,
Yes.
right? And that we have to figure out how to. I mean, we just need some recovery disc that we can reboot from here, because it's just not. This is going someplace terrible, and again, to look at it through the lens narrowly politically of over the next 2 years, it's to the massive disadvantage of the left.
It certainly is, but I don't see any way to fix that. Like with the current climate and this current attitude where people are engaging in this recreational outrage, it fits the climate. I don't know what would have to happen for people to come to some sort of a realization. I mean, it would have to happen to them, like it did to Jamie.
Right.
Like what happened with Jamie Kilstein is that they turned on him, and he's like, "Oh my God, this is awful."
Yeah.
Like what? This is not. And then he realized. I don't know what other thing could happen.
Well, I mean, the game we're playing is part of it. I mean, you and I are in a position to take risks that even the people at the top of journalism can't. I mean, like Megyn Kelly says one wrong thing, and it doesn't matter that she's got a $20 million contract.
Right.
She's fired.
And when you look at the thing that she said, I mean, it was just a question.
Yeah, she just didn't seem to understand how charged the phrase blackface was.
Right.
Like she's just ignorant of that piece of history or something. But so she put her foot in her mouth. She gave an apology that was just like, full-blown hostage video apology. Just like, I am so fucking sorry. You don't even know. Like, here, take a sample of my blood, and you'll just see my, test my cortisol. And
Not good enough.
not good enough. And
They let her say the apology too,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is even more crazy. They let her come back, say the apology, and then go, "Good, thanks for doing that.
Yeah,
Get
bye.
the
Yeah,
fuck
right,
out of here."
exactly. No one's job in that space is secure enough where they can take real risks. But you and I could do an interview with Louis C.K., right? Like, and just process his coming back into stand-up. Say,
Yes.
And do it in a way where if people didn't like it, you just say, okay, fuck off, right? This is the conversation we had. And I think modeling that more and more, I mean, I think we have to take those risks, and people like us have to take those risks, and hope to break this spell by having those conversations in public.
Unfortunately, I was reading that, and then I got on a flight, and I just wanted to zone out, so I listened to this one on tape.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you all about it. But the key thing is that book, The Coddling of the American Mind, was something that we wrote because Greg began observing this weird stuff happening in universities in 2014. It all starts in 2014. Most of your listeners have heard about safe spaces, microaggressions, bias response teams, trigger warnings, all that stuff. That stuff didn't exist before 2014. It just begins creeping in then, and then it kind of blows up in 2015. And so our whole book is an exploration of why. Why did this happen? And so to your question about was there an event, our answer is there are 6 different causal threads. There's like all these social trends, some going back to the 80s and 90s, that came together around 2014 so that students are a little different, and then there are certain forces acting on them that are different. And so you get this weird new game, you get this explosive mix, you get some students who are actually very drawn to grievance studies. And so very briefly, it's things like rising political polarization. So left and right never particularly liked each other. But in the 70s and 80s, if you look at surveys done of how much you hate people on the other side, it's not that intense. It begins going up in the 80s, and then especially after 2000, it's going up very steeply. At the same time, university faculty who've always leaned left throughout the 20th century, but it was only a lean. And in the 90s, it begins shifting much further left, so that now faculties, especially in the social sciences and humanities, are pretty purified. They're overwhelmingly on the left. So you have a more left-leaning university at a time when left-right hostility is getting more and more intense. And so any question that has a political valence, now there's a lot more people who want to do the football game. Not the truth-seeking game, but that we got to defeat the other side. Don't give me nuance. Don't give me data. We know what we believe, and damn it, we're gonna, So you got this changing political situation, and then you've got a couple of threads about what we've done to kids. So, and God, this is a whole nother area of conversation for us. But we basically took away free play and gave them social media. The same, basically, kids who were born in 1995 and after, Gen Z. They had really different childhoods, and they're not as prepared for conflict and college. We'll get into that later. But you put all these things together, you get kids who are much more anxious and fragile, much more depressed, coming onto campus at a time of much greater political activism. And now these grievance studies ideas about America's a matrix of oppression and look at the world in terms of good versus evil, it's more appealing to them. And it's that minority of students, they're the ones who are initiating a lot of the movements.
It's such a strange time to be on the outside and watch this, because a person like myself has always counted on intellectuals and professors and people like yourself to sort of make sense of things and to reinforce the idea that freedom of speech and free debate are critical aspects to knowledge. And one of the things that's most disturbing when you see in schools is people that are even marginally right-leaning or centrist being called Nazis and being silenced, and they're pulling fire alarms when they're speaking. I mean, even people like Christina Hoff Sommers, who's a feminist, gets shouted down and people are yelling at her and calling her a fascist. It's just very strange. It's very strange to watch from the outside, and it's also very strange to not see any pushback by the professors. So sitting here and seeing this happen and thinking, well, these poor kids, they're going to have to go into the workplace. They're going to have to, right now they're in this very insulated environment. They're going to escape that environment when they graduate, and then they're either going to push this ideology into the workforce, which you do see now.
That's it,
especially
exactly.
with tech
in the
companies.
last year. That's right. That's right. No, that's right. I know it's strange to look at it from the outside, and believe me, it's stranger from the inside. But one thing I can say that might be helpful here is that from the outside, what you see is the news reports. And the news reports are going to be very selective. And so especially what happens is because, universities have always leaned left, and so the right-leaning media have always been suspicious. So the right-leaning media has huge coverage of every little thing. And sometimes it's exaggerated, sometimes it's misinterpreted. For the most time, there was something there. Left-leaning media tends to ignore it. And so I go around the country and, people on the right expect that, oh my God, it's chaos and mob violence on campus, which isn't true. That's an exaggeration. And the left is like, problem? What problem? There's nothing changing. And so I think the key thing to keep in mind here is that there's about 4,500 institutions of higher education in this country. Most of them are not selective schools. They'll take anyone who comes. And in those schools, not much is happening. But if you go to the elite liberal arts colleges in the Northeast and the West Coast, then usually something is happening. And so at Heterodox Academy, it's a group that I co-founded of professors that are pushing back. It's bipartisan. We have as many people on the left as on the right. We created a map of where all the shoutdowns have taken place. And they're all right in the Northeast or along the Pacific coast, like from Evergreen down to Berkeley and all that, and then a couple in Chicago. So in most of the country, this stuff is not happening. Most schools, the culture hasn't really changed much. But at the top schools, in general, it has. So that's one thing to just keep in mind. There is a moral panic on the right about this, which doesn't mean that there's not something real. There really is a huge problem. But it's not as pervasive as is sometimes made out to be.
So is it akin to looking at violence in the news media? Like when you read about violence in terms of robberies and murders, in general, you're not going to encounter much in your life. The world is a large place. But we concentrate on these really bad moments.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that, except that, one of the reasons that we took free play away from kids is that we were afraid that they'd be abducted, and that that was so rare. But we got a lot of coverage of that in the 80s and 90s, and we changed our behavior because of that, and that was a gross overreaction. The situation on campus is not like that. It's your odds of being nailed are much higher than that. And so, I hear every day, or at least every week, I get an email from a professor who says, I used a metaphor in class and somebody reported me. And and so once this happens to you, you pull back, you change your teaching style. What we're seeing on campus is a spectacular collapse of trust between students and professors. And when we don't trust each other, we can't do our job. We can't risk provoking, being provocative, raising new ideas, raising uncomfortable ideas. We have to play it safe, and then everybody suffers.
Is social media partially to blame? Because
it's huge. Yeah. Social media is a huge part of this problem. So, in a couple ways. So one is the generational thing that we have. Kids born after 1995 got this in middle school. It had a variety of effects on them. So kids coming in are more conversant with call-out culture, and so that's a big part of this. The other thing, though, is that we used to have what you would call a reasonable person standard. So, for Professor, what's one? Oh, so a professor just wrote to me recently. He said he got frustrated while trying to explain something. And he said, shoot me now. And a student was offended by this because are you making fun of people committing suicide? And okay, had she come to him and said, Professor, I know you didn't mean anything, but that was kind of insensitive. Okay, that would have been great. Like, that's the way to handle it. But for this generation, raised with call-out culture and social media, you almost never hear of a student coming to someone else in private because you don't get credit for that.
Yeah.
So you only get credit when you call them out publicly. And so that's why we're all walking on eggshells, because most of our students are great. Most of them are fine. But if I have a class of 300 students, a lecture class, I know that some of them subscribe to this new call-out culture, safetyism, morality. And so if I say one thing, it's not a reasonable person standard, it's a most sensitive person standard. I have to teach to the most sensitive person in the class.
It's also that person has the opportunity to score, right? They throw up that virtue flag, like I've got one on the board here. Look what I did. I nailed the professor on saying shoot me now, and now I'm a hero, and I've made this a safer space for everybody else.
That's right. And so that's really what is messing us up at so many levels of society. And the fact that a lot of these problems, the difficulties of democracy, the rise of authoritarian populism. There are a lot of weird trends that are happening in multiple countries. And I think it's the rise of devices and social media is the main way we can explain why it's so similar across countries.
Do you think that this is this some sort of a trend that will eventually correct itself when these kids get out into the real world and then go through a whole generation of that, and then people realize the error of their ways and the disastrous results of having these unprepared or emotionally unprepared kids?
Yeah. No, I'm pretty confident that it will not correct itself. I think that once we understand it, I think there are a variety of things we can do to change it. But I think here's the way to understand it and why it's not going to change itself. So I'm a social psychologist is my main area. But I love all of the social sciences. I love thinking about complex systems, and systems composed of people are really different from systems composed of stars or neutrons or anything else. And so if you have a complex system composed of people, these people are primarily working to increase their prestige. So, I mean, once we have our needs for, food and things like that are set, we're always interacting in ways to make ourselves look good and to protect ourselves from being nailed, or accused of something. So we're always doing reputation management. Now, think about in any group what gives you prestige. And so if you look in a group of teenagers, you might have a group in which it's athletics. And so if that's how you get prestige, then all the kids are going to be working out and training and practicing. And that doesn't hurt anybody. That doesn't impose an external cost on anyone else. But you can have some really sick prestige economies. And so there's an ethnography about an indigenous population in the Philippines by Shelley Rizaldo is the anthropologist. I think it's called Knowledge and Passion, about the Alangud, which is a name for a tribe in the Philippines. And in this tribe, it's a head-hunting tribe. They find people and cut off their heads, not just for fun, for prestige. So in a lot of societies, you have a lot of male initiation. Boys have to do something to become a man. And if the thing you have to do to become a man is you have to cut off someone's head, okay, so that imposes rather a heavy cost on outsiders. All right, so this is a sick culture. This is not one where we can say, oh, well, that's just the way they do things. Okay, This has to stop. And ideally, they would cut off a stranger's head, like they find someone from another tribe or someone, from, a government agency. They'll just cut off his head. But if necessary, if there's a fight or if there's somebody within their larger community, that can also get you points. So this is a really sick culture. Now, call-out culture is not quite that bad, but it's the same logic. Okay, so if you have a group of teenagers or college students who are all struggling for prestige, as we all are, and if you get a subculture in which the way you get prestige is by calling someone out, showing that they're racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, Islamophobic, whatever it is, if you can catch them, you get the points. What you're doing here is you are imposing an external cost on others. And that's what makes you so insufferable, because you are playing your game, but I'm paying the cost of your game. And so that, I think, it's hard to – people aren't going to break out of that themselves. But once we understand what's happening, I think in a sense we can all come together and call out culture and say, stop imposing these costs on us.
But how are we going to reach those kids if professors are so terrified to speak out and to cause controversy in class, and no one wants to criticize them because if you do, you risk your job, you risk them organizing against you? I mean, how does this shift?
So I'm hopeful that we can shift it because most people hate it. So even the people who do it recognize that they're always on eggshells. They can be next. There's the tendency of people in this culture to, as we say, they eat their own. They eventually turn on each other. And the mental health costs of it, I mean, there are a number of essays that have been written by people who sort of left that. And it sounds miserable to be inside it. You're always, there's no humor. There's no fun. It's always, hyper serious, angry. And so I think if we can raise kids or encourage them to see the games that social media makes them do and give them a vocabulary. I don't know, we should come up with some catchy terms for it, but give them a vocabulary so that they can like, oh, you're a calling outer. I don't know, that's clunky, but we can help them label this behavior.
Mock it.
Yeah, mock it, exactly. Yes. That's right.
Yeah, there's patterns that you see in people that from a distance, like if I look at it, when I look at them objectively, there's like these patterns. I go, oh, that's one of those MAGA guys. He's one of those, he's got an American flag with an eagle in his avatar on Twitter. Right. And if you go through his page, it's all like talking great about POTUS and criticizing anyone who talks bad about Trump. It's strange. It's like these patterns of behavior, these predetermined patterns.
Almost like there are stereotypes.
Not just stereotypes, like they've fallen into a well-oiled, slick groove that's very easy to predict. If you are one of those people, it's super easy to predict that you're going to be pro-Second Amendment. Yep. It's super easy to predict that you're probably going to be skeptical about climate change. There's all these different things that go along with these patterns of behavior, and you see them on the right, you see them on the left, and it's weird to watch. It's weird to watch on the outside. It's like, well, this is such an easy pattern to slip into.
Yeah. Well, that's right. So there's data from the Pew surveys. They've been measuring attitudes of Americans since the 80s or 90s, but they've been publishing this series on polarization in which they show that in the 90s, if you knew somebody's attitude on, say, gun control, that would only predict their attitude on abortion a certain percent. And a lot of people on the left, let's say, would hold 6 of the 10 leftist attitudes, and same on the right. But gradually, by the time you get to around 2010, it's like if you know one attitude, you know them all. And that's in part just because if you turn up the volume. So we evolved to do us versus them. And the more we see, if it's us, America, versus them, communist Russia or Nazi Germany, well, then we all come together, and that's great for social cohesion and trust. But as that fades away, and as us versus them became increasingly left versus right, and as we lost the liberal Republicans and the conservative Democrats, those used to exist until the 80s or 90s, as we lost them, once it becomes us versus them as left versus right, now if you only hold your team's position on 6 out of 10 items, you're a traitor. And so you better get with the program. And so the pressures for conformity, the pressures to agree with your team on everything have been steadily rising. And that means there's no nuance. And we can't do higher education without nuance. We can't do college without free thinking and the ability to say, well, you know what, wait a second, maybe they do have a point on this thing. And that's one of the reasons why it looks so weird from the outside and why it's getting so unpleasant from the inside. When
you're teaching classes and a subject comes up that may be controversial, do you have like this overwhelming feeling that you're treading on dangerous ground?
Yes. Yeah. So I taught Psych 101 at the University of Virginia, and I would take them into, sex differences, the origin of sexual orientation. I would even do race differences. And because there was a reasonable person standard, and I trusted my students and they trusted me, and we had a great time, and we covered a lot of stuff. But now, and then I moved to New York University in 2011 when my previous book, The Righteous Mind, came out. And it's not about UVA versus NYU. It's just about the changing time. Now, as I said, I have to teach to the most sensitive students. So I teach a course on business ethics, on professional responsibility, and we have a section on discrimination and employment law. It's important to cover. We have to cover it. MBA students have to know where the lines are, what the law is. And yeah, I'm kind of scared when I teach that because I'd like to get into all sorts of things. I'd like to get into what do numerical disparities mean? If there's a gender difference in the percentage of tech, but not in the percentage of non-tech employees in Silicon Valley, what does that mean? I would like to talk about that. But if a single student thinks that I am denying the existence of sexism, they could be offended by that. And in every bathroom at NYU, there's a sign telling them how to report me anonymously. And they put these up in 2016 in response to student requests. And it means that all professors are on notice that they can be reported anonymously at any moment.
By children.
Well, these are, I'm not going to call them children. I mean, my students are MBA students, but the undergrads, they're 17 to 21-year-olds for the undergrads. Yes, that's right.
Barely not children anymore.
That's right.
And there's an incentive to this what we were talking about before. There's this incentive that gives them attention, they get prestige, they get value from it, and this culture encourages these things.
That's